Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply, and this video is to bring you a closer look at the Adams Rite number 4300-30-201-628. That's a lot of part number, but it's part of the beauty of Adams Rite in the sense that you can really extract an exact requirement for a lock. Well, anyway, this is what the 4300 looks like. They call it Steel Hawk. It's an electric or electrified mortise lock. And this is what it looks like. Got your solenoid back here. This video is going to serve as visual evidence of the item, then visual and dimensional evidence of the item. We're going to go over what's included. We are going to look at the product catalog and the installation instructions. Here is some dimensional evidence. Overall height of the body, not that these dimensions really matter, but about 6 and 13/16. Overall depth of the body is about 1 inch and 5/8. Thickness, about 1 inch. What you're going to get included with this will be, actually with this one, and I'm not sure why, but we might discover when we look at the breakdown of the part number. 2 faceplates are included. A radiused faceplate, that's for your radiused edge aluminum doors. A square or a flat faceplate is what this is called. So if you have a flat edge door, a square edge door, this is going to be what you're going to use. It's going to certainly look just like that. There also ought to be beveled faceplates, maybe with a weather strip insert as well, which we'll get to. Your strike plate is going to be here. You're going to have your dust box. That's going to be something important. You're going to have your mounting plate for that as well. That will go in the frame naturally. It's going to give you a nice tight installation. Without pressure fitting that in there, it's going to obviously close that hole off like that. You're going to get your cam plug. Take that out of its packaging so we can take a look at it. And the cam plug, of course, is what permits you to connect your push or pull paddle, your lever trim, to the device itself. When you insert they've got a 43. The cam plug, they have cam plugs for 4300, 45, and 4900 series. The 4300 is the loose one. But the point is when you have your spindle from your trim, that's what's going to rotate the retractor plate, which is going to be what's going to get the latch to pull back. Okay, so when you push your paddle, pull it, etc. You get the concept there. Installation instructions are included with the cam plug and are listed down below as well for you to review that, because they do obviously talk about the orientation of the cam on the back of the cam plug, retractor plate I initially called it, and allowing you to be able to get it installed correctly. And we'll go over that as we go over the hardware itself. So, and then of course your, depending on how you're going to wire this, 24 volt, 12 volt, 24 volt, okay, 12 volt, 16 volt AC. Let's get right into the product catalog, and we're going to define the different aspects of this item. Product catalog is indeed listed down below. An overview: the 4300 Steel Hawk electrified dead latch is a non-handed, narrow backset electrified dead latch designed for easy integration into access control systems. The 4300 seamlessly combines electrified locking hardware with access control while working compatibly with standard narrow-style aluminum entrance door preparations. Standard is fail secure. Rated for continuous duty, 12, 16, or 24 volt DC. Okay. Turnkey, apply voltage or operate handle is how you're going to operate the lock. Key or a handle, or of course running it electrically. is what's going to work here. And also, speaking electrically of it, available with latch bolt status monitor, that can also be accomplished. If you need to have the ability to understand the status of the latch bolt, if someone were to perhaps try to Lloyd that latch bolt, tamper with the latch bolt, you would know what's going on. They call that a Form C. They say Form C latch bolt status monitor. That's single pull, double throw is what it is. Common, normally open, normally closed. Takes typical 1-inch length cylinders, standard 1 5/32 of an inch diameter, 32 threads per inch. Adams Rite, of course, can provide the 40-36 mortise cylinder or the thumb turn, the 40-66. That's normal material for them. Talk about some of the features. 31/32 and 1.1 available. The most common, 1.5 also available. That's buried in this part number as well. The case, steel with corrosion-resistant plating. Stainless steel latch bolt, 5/8 by 1 inch by 5/8. 1 inch by 5/8. 1 inch by 5/8 by 5/8. All metal auxiliary bolt, deadlocks, latch bolt to prevent lloyding or case knife entry. So lloyding is the term that would be used in the locksmith industry when you're going to put a butter knife in here to get that open. But what's interesting, though, is, I first was quite confused. This is a fail secure lock. When the power's off, it's locked. Well, power's off, it's not locked. And I had to go back to basics to figure that out. Well, when the deadlocking auxiliary bolt is pushed in, now it's locked. Okay? Because it would only ever be in the condition of it being locked in order for that to... So then when you apply electrical power, is what's going to permit that electrified lock to operate, to be able to retract, is the bottom line. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so let's move on with the features. Before we do that, let's just demonstrate, how that's going to work. That solenoid that's buried down here, when that auxiliary bolt or deadlatching tab is depressed, you can see the mechanism is coming up that's going to prevent me from pushing that in. Well, when we are powered, the solenoid is going to force that retractor, or that piece preventing it, to come down. Once that comes down, that latch bolt's going to be able to go all the way in. Okay, so it's a very, very nice mechanism. It seems to be well engineered. Strike, optional strikes. This is going to include the standard strike, which is going to be buried into the part number down below. It has two preparations in it. That obviously makes it not handed. You're not going to need one of those holes. You're going to use this filler to close off one of the holes and remove the inside button when using the 43 or 4900 series. They're referring to this nylon tip that's on both sides. So you're going to pop that out. You'll pop that out in both instances, actually. And then you'll place your dust box, is really what it is, and your filler. It's a combination piece. You've got your mounting plate that's here for it as well. You'll be able to get that installed to your aluminum storefront door frame. Okay. Then this will attach to it after you have this in place. Let's take a dimension of the strike. Overall height of the strike, about 4 5/8. Overall width of this strike is about 1 inch and 13/16. The dimension from the center line of the hole to the edge of the lip, which is really how strikes are measured, looks like it's 1 1/4. Okay. Optional strikes are available. We'll get to that when we look at the rest of the information. Standard package does include and I had said earlier, I wasn't sure, with the strike, a flat and radius faceplate, your mounting screws for everything. That's for your strike reinforcing plate and the strike itself. And then, of course, there's not much left. It's just the 2 machine bolts that are going to go through the edge of the door, obviously, and will then certainly bury into the sidewall of the door construction. And then, of course, this spacer is what you're going to manipulate to get it to stay exactly where it needs to be in relationship to having pressure on the back wall, having the screw pushing it this way, and these two pieces together will lock that in place. Supplied with the 4581 universal cam plug. We talked about that. For use with handles and panel operators. Okay. 12, 16, or 24 volt compliant. You have those leads here rated for any condition that you're throwing at it, provided that it is, of course, DC. The options are going to be your back set, your strike, and the finish, obviously. Your back set will define the dimension from the edge of the door to the center of the hole. Your strikes are options, as are the finish for the faceplates, really. Black, aluminum, dark bronze. Now, the next page in the product catalog shows us the dimensional properties of everything, and we won't beleaguer all of those points here on the video, except let's define dimension A. Dimension A is the back set. 31/32, inch and an eighth, inch and a half. That's from the edge of the door to the center of the hole. It's the absolute, it would be the edge of the door. The point is if you have a square edge door, just hook your tape measure on the edge of the door and go to the center of the hole. If you have a radiused edge door, it's going to be from the outside, the greatest crowned area of the radius of the door thickness. And as you can see there, the bevel is not from the small side of the door or from the high side of the door. It's from the center line of the thickness of the door. And 31/32, an inch and an eighth are far enough away to really not confuse them. But if you're looking at the door and you measure it on both sides and you're getting two different dimensions that are almost an eighth of an inch difference, it's probably a beveled edge door. And yeah, if you're measuring from the high side, you do need to compensate for the fact that your tape measure is too far over. So maybe take off a 1/16 of an inch, and then you're going to be true on with your dimension. Okay. Now moving on to the next page of the catalog, they show the style preparation of what you'll need to prep it. We'll talk about that with the installation instructions. The greater assembly, it is very simple and straightforward to install these. Once the door and frame are prepped, there's not a lot of work to do to get it to be installed. Adjustable mounting tube bracket may be removed for mounting on bridges, tabs, or other methods. So Adams Rite makes mounting bridges. It's items that are going to clip or clamp into the style of the door, which you could attach this to. You could also use a mounting tab. In order to do that, you would have to remove this entire bracket, and then you would have a rectangular tab that has the offset in it. You'll drill and tap. You'll drill and countersink a hole and add that mounting tab up there, and you'll attach this ear specifically to the tab. So you can install it three different ways. The bridges, the tabs, they're different based on the edge of the door, so be mindful of that. You know, flat and bevel are the same tab. I'm pretty sure that then you have the beveled edge. So if you're doing the installation mounting method other than adjustable mounting tube, yeah, you'll need some additional hardware. Does show how the cam assembly works. If you're using a mortise thumb turn on one side and a cylinder on the other, you won't use the cam plug at all. I would recommend that you keep that. Someday you might need it. Shows you the faceplate, shows you the strike plate. Very simple and straightforward how this is working. That auxiliary locking bolt is not intended to go inside any hole. It's going to ride on this flat portion here. So not to make it seem like it will go into the hole. That hole is going to be blanked off. And there's only two holes because they don't make handed strikes. Now, looking at the installation instructions, page 1 gives the dimensional properties. What's really important to know there is that you are prepping a rectangular slot in the door. You're leaving the radius that's required because that faceplate is going to have that funny radius. So radius, 0.156, what would that be? Well, that would be 5/16 of an inch. Yeah, so 3125. Yeah, so yeah, you're going to need a 5/16 of an inch drill bit, right? 0.156 times 2. Yeah, so that's 5/16 of an inch drill bit. You'll route that out. Aluminum is easily worked with a router and a carbide 2-flute router bit. The important thing to know is the you know your A dimension in terms of backset, but that 1.594 dimension from the top of the preparation down to from the top of the preparation, which would be here, down to the center line of the cylinder. Okay, that's got to be spot on at the right backset for that cylinder to go in smoothly and without trouble. And also you'll see a reference to the back style of what they're looking for you to do there as well. They're going to need holes drilled and tapped into the back style of the door so that you can run the machine bolts, through the studs. And that is 1032, and it's 1 7/8 overall length. Okay, so you'll have to make sure that that's going to, if you're installing it this way, you'll need to drill and tap those 2 holes. Again, for the screw to go through here, through the back of the body, into the back of the housing itself. You'll first want to adjust the bolts here so that they make contact with the rear wall of the unit. Now, the next question becomes, when you're installing this, is where do you position the strike? And the important thing in that regard is that they're specifically showing it's the center line of the lock, or the center line of the strike. And that center line is referred to there in the strike preparation in the frame so that you can have a point of reference. And, you know, the center line of the strike isn't really a point of reference. What they're referring to in a multi-step fashion is the center line of the cylinder is 2.769 inch to the center line of the prep in the strike hole. Okay, so that's going to be where you place this. You know, I use a caliper for laying this stuff out, and without it I would find it impossible to know what I'm doing. So we know that our lock body prep is going to be at a certain height. From the top of the edge of the door down to the center of the hole is going to be 1.594 inch. Then below that, 2.769 should bring you right to the center line of this preparation. Okay, that's what they're showing there. Now you have the math in order to be able to locate the hardware on the door and the frame. And then after that, you know, you've got your holes drilled. Your lock body is going to have to go in first. You'll secure it with the 2 screws. Cylinders or thumb turns will go in. If you're doing a push paddle or a lever, your cam plug has to go in. Your strike has to be attached after you assemble it. Operation instruction: press auxiliary latch to secure the main latch. Turn key, apply voltage, or operate paddle handle to unlock the lock. So the operation instruction literally made clear what was not clear to me earlier. Press the auxiliary latch to secure the main latch. To operate it, turn the key, apply voltage, which will temporarily unlatch the unit. And what happens is the latch doesn't retract. It basically gets itself into a position where it can then be pulled open. So all that's really happening is it's not retracting the latch, it's just permitting it, it's removing the blockage that will prevent it or permit it to just fold over and open. This is in, the power is applied, this little guy right here comes down. When I hold that down, my latch is just literally going to pivot and collapse, is what they say in the operation. Okay, so now it's clear. Looking further, they talk more about installation instructions, and thankfully they do talk about mounting tab installation that show what they'd like for you to do to remove what they call the yoke. And this is the yoke assembly. Here, you'll be able to draw the bolt out and get down to the screw that you can kind of see right there, and that will remove these yokes. Bevel adjustment. So that's going to be really important. If you have a beveled edge door, the way they account for that is these little plates here. They are literally beveled as well. They're thin on one end, and then they're thicker on the other. And that's how they account for bevel on this. So you'll need to set that naturally, because that will allow you to use a flat faceplate, is the bottom line. So when you get this lock, it's literally complete. If you have a beveled edge or a square edge door or a radius edge door. So that's a nifty way to do it. They do offer those faceplates with the weather seal. That would be something separate altogether. They show a solenoid wiring diagram. You know, obviously your leads are going to connect to your wire harness coming off depending on your voltage. Nothing else really to think about there in that regard. You know, they do show that if you're powering it with alternating current, that you will need a 4603 rectifier. The solenoid current draw is obviously dependent on what voltage you're running at. As the volts go up, the amps go down. 0.24 amp at 24 volt and a 0.44 amp at 12 volt. So that's simple and straightforward. And the solenoid wiring diagram is there to show you which of these four wires are going to communicate, brown, yellow, blue, and orange. There are four there indeed, depending on what pigtail you're going to use to install it with. So that's there for your information. Should you need to know that, maybe one of these gets lost, at least you know what to do. That completes everything on the installation instructions, with the exception of the cam, and this is linked to down below as well, showing you how you need to change that. This is a 4300, and this universal cam, it's going to work because it's a universal cam, meaning it will work on their standard dead latch, non-electrified locks. But you're running a 4300, so you're going to have to swap the cam out. So you'll notice it's got an L on that side. Okay, so that's going to be your left-hand operation or your right-hand reverse. You flip it over and it's going to be the opposite orientation. Okay. In order to get that cam reversed, well, they've made it simple. You used to have to remove a tiny little C-clip, which I did lose one time. Spring-loaded mechanism here. You push that in, and that cam plug, or that cam, drops off. I'm going to insert for the client the 4300 because I know he's going to need it. Here we go. So I've got it set up for a left hand or a right hand reverse. Really, really nice. Can't be any easier. And that's really everything that's on the cam disc. When you try to put that cam plug in and you immediately try to work your lock, if it's not retracting, the cam on the cam disc or cam plug is backwards, would be the bottom line. They do also refer to a monitoring option that we had talked about earlier. It is available with a monitoring switch. Not a bad idea. Meaning there are applications where it will only be used with monitoring switches involved on the latch. Now, we talked about dissecting the part number, and let's do so. In the product catalog, we know we're dealing with a 4300. And remember, this is a 30-201-628. So 3 in the part number means 1.125" back set. If we put our tape measure on here, and we're lacking our faceplate, so this is going to be a little shy on 1.125". But if we, well, you know what? Let's just put the faceplate on. Why wouldn't we? my bevel discs are out of place, not permitting my faceplate to sit flat. So there's your 1.1 inch, right to the top of the hole. That's beautiful. Then I have a 0 after that, which means there's no monitoring. 2, 3, and 4 are the back sets. 0 or M are the monitoring. So if I wanted this 1.1 inch back set, it'd be 3M. After that, I have a 201. The 2 means that I'm getting the mortised strike, which is the 4 5/8 strike, versus the 4304 strike, which is a surface mount. The 01 means it's a flat strike, flat for a standard jam. Meaning you could have this installed on a pair of doors, which means you need a different strike. A radiused strike could be typical. You could also do a flat center hung with a 4-inch jam or a 4.5 inch jam. You could be installing this on, this door could be hung on center hung closer is what it would be installed on, a center hung closer, where the door is set into the center of the thickness of it, so you need you need an extended lip strike is the bottom line. So you would order it that way depending on the jam depth. 4-inch or 4.5 inch, those are standards in the aluminum industry, which is why they're giving you that. 628, of course, is clear anodized aluminum. 313 is dark bronze. 335 is black anodized. So those are the 3 finishes that are available. And that gets us through everything about the lock. It's a simple and straightforward procedure. Very typical and common when you need to have electric control over an opening, card reader access, keypad access. You're sitting at a reception desk and that door is 10 feet away from you with a window in it. Someone approaches, you know who they are. You hit the button, they can just pull the door open. So that's why this stuff is certainly used. What you're going to find is from Adams Rite, an incredible diversity of pretty unique hardware. If you're a locksmith, you're very obviously familiar with Adams Rite. If you're not, if you are someone who does a lot of specialty work, you might very likely want to familiarize yourself with Adams Rite because of the complex pieces of equipment that they put together in a simple way. They have solutions for problems that no one else does, whether it be cylinder-operated flush bolts or bottom rail locks, and then ways to be able to manipulate that for different door thicknesses, and obviously panic hardware and electric strikes. So a trip through their catalog would certainly not be time wasted. Below this video is a link to that catalog, along with a link to the full parts manual that's there, and it's the full document. Not that every item Adams Rite has is published there, unfortunately, but everything that's published is there. So if you have a unit and you need a replacement part for, that's the document that you'll start at. And then, of course, a link to all the Adams Rite products that we sell, and then a link to the manufacturer's website. If you have any questions on the Adams Rite, they're part number 4300-30-201-628, Steelhawk, electric latch, or any other Adams Rite product. Please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you.